The first half of the second season, don't put a minimum fucking bid. Okay. So.
Rant.
What? Rant, yeah. So the guy from Brazil.
Yep.
Thank you for reminding me. In the Wendy and Mary Women's Wisdom at Work panel, there was a guy.
Oh no.
There were multiple men in that room, including myself. Here's what I did. I'm like, keep your questions short. Wendy and Mary are great. They reserve the right not to answer stuff, you know. And then I sat the fuck down because I was neither a woman nor in the animation industry. So this guy, second last question of the panel, said, I don't have a question, I just want to make a statement.
Was this you?
I wasn't there, I just got here today.
So he said, blah, 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 blah accusations, blah, blah unfounded, blah, blah I'm talking about Vic, blah, blah you should defend him. So Vic Mignogna has been accused.
Yep. And he's
And
suing
that's
now.
all I'm aware is that he's been accused of interacting with underage fans in an inappropriately sexual manner.
Yep.
Vic's response has been
A lawsuit?
Yep.
vigorous. So in that context, a male weeb standing up in a women in the industry panel and demanding that they defend men accused of sexual misconduct. So I stepped in just before Mary launched herself over the table on a column of pure rage, and I saved his life.
Why?
Because it was my role to be the bad guy, not Mary's. So I said, you know, we're done, question over. You don't have a, I said, you get 3 sentences, ask a question. He didn't, and I said, okay, you're done, next. And this is a good example of the kind of shit that convinces me that, by the way, thank you for your contribution to charity. Give that guy one last hand. So, in another example of why I am thoroughly convinced that weebs have suffered sufficient trauma to need fucking therapy. Every year I do a bit on the go to therapy, and every year I have someone come up to me either beforehand or afterwards and say, so I listened to your advice last year and I went to therapy. Thank you for suggesting it, because, and then like some guys are like, I got laid this year because of that, or I got to therapy and oh my god, my childhood was so fucked up and I didn't realize, and my life is so much better, whatever, right? So in an example of why, another example of why I'm thoroughly convinced there are at least one person in this room who could benefit from therapy, this dude walked up and did something that trauma survivors refer to as JADE, J-A-D-E. There's a website called Out of the Fog, which once you realize you are or have been in a deeply unhealthy relationship with a manipulative person, the Out of the Fog website is very useful because it teaches some techniques and some concepts that help you sort of disentangle yourself from someone who is entangling themselves in unhealthy ways in your life. JADE is an acronym. It stands for Justify, Argue, Defend, and Explain. What happens is, usually in the context of an abusive relationship, the abuser will train the other person to respond to accusations at length, to explain their motives, to justify their decisions, to defend their positions, and to explain what they were thinking when something just happened. Because when someone does this, they are, to an extent, admitting they did something that the other person has a reason to disapprove of. Usually someone who's been trained to JADE hasn't done anything wrong. It's usually the abusive person who's in a bad mood, pokes them, pokes them, pokes them, pokes them, pokes them. The other person says, stop it. why did you say that? Provoking the jade. If they don't respond, the abuser will then punish them.
I know I'll never be the same. Shook my world so hard again.